What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the KMBest podcast. For the longest time, I have been a doubter of the idea that Newverse or any other company was adversely interfering to the detriment of players in Marvel Snap, but it seems like that theory has been gaining steam as with the announcement of a chance to find a new publisher. Second Dinner has announced the most generous compensation that they have ever announced for anything ever. It might be the most generous compensation plan that I've ever seen in any mobile game ever. Where are you at on this, Gerry? Can you give me a breakdown of what you think about it as a general sense before we jump into the specifics?
Honestly, man, like there is a game that came out, I think about a year ago at this point, called Wuthering Waves. It is effectively a Genshin Impact clone, and they are the only game I've ever seen that like their release was basically fraught with like a lot of bugs. Like the game was effectively unplayable on mobile, and it's like it's supposed to be like this mobile open world RPG, right? Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
And their comp was actually very sick. They made their player base very happy. I think it cost them a lot of money as a result to do so.
Okay.
But at that point, that was like, wow, unheard of. Like mobile game actually giving players stuff. Second Dinner topped it, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I do think that they have a lot of kind of like bad press to make up for and everything, to like undo just like the bad kind of like stereotype that they have. But this is a good step in the right direction. This is a lot of stuff, and I think that dude, this is so much more than like, oh, you couldn't play the game for a week.
Yes.
Right?
It
like,
is. It
you
is.
get so much more out of it than that.
I did the math, and there is about 18,000 gold worth of progression value being given out to players on North America. That is determined. I'm sorry?
Which is like $200?
I ballpark it. Yeah, a little over 200, depending on like how you value gold. Valuing anything is kind of difficult in Marvel Snap because so much of the good value is in bundles, right? So it's hard to make like direct one-to-one comparisons. And like when you try to put a value on how much a spotlight key is, you have to like subtract all the stuff you get on the collection track. You can't just be like, oh, it's however much it takes to get a spotlight key and credits because you're getting credits back. You're getting like variants and stuff like that. It's a little bit difficult, I think, purposely in this game to actually do the math on how... Yeah, go ahead.
I just thought of this. I don't know why, but can I dust my variants? Like, can they make that a feature? Can I just dust them?
Someone brought that up in the beta. Like, it was something people asked about, where it's like, can we dust cards? And they were like, we think that system sucks. The premise of it sucks, so we're just not going to do it.
Especially because I would dust all my Dan Hips, and then I would just get a bunch of Dan Hips. No shade to Dan Hip. I'm sure you're a lovely human, and plenty of my friends love your artwork, just not for me.
Yeah, I love Dan Hip. I'm a big Dan Hip guy. The only thing I like more than Dan Hip variants is variants that can be misconstrued as being inappropriate. Like, everyone was going crazy for Dan Hip Bullseye, but there's another Bullseye that kind of looks like he's giving you the middle finger, and that's the Bullseye I got. Like, that's...
I mean, that's just awesome, given the character's name.
Yeah, no, I vastly prefer the one where if you like ink it out and you look from far away enough, it looks like he's flipping you off. I'm into that, right? Anyway, compensation. About 18,000 gold worth of progression for anyone in America, and about 10,000 gold, 11,000 gold worth of cosmetics. And the reason I did the breakdown like this is because for different people, the compensation is going to be worth different things, right? People care a lot about cosmetics. People care a lot about progression. Different people have different ways of indexing for that. They also announced a global package of compensation, which was far more generous than I thought it would be. Because, frankly, I keep coming back to the definition of compensation, where it like requires a loss to have occurred. Like, compensation is meant to compensate for something having happened to you. Nothing happened to anyone outside of America, and they're still very mad about the compensation.
Technically.
I see a lot of people who are like, I think that I would have taken not being able to play the game for 2 days if it were meant that I got double the stuff. And it's like, that's what happened in hindsight, but that's not what happened in the moment, right? Like,
could have been worse.
This is
game could have been down for a month.
The game just went down pending literally the president of the United States. Like,
Yeah.
That's not the kind
And
of
I'm
thing
not
that you can just be like, oh, it was 2 days. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I'm not leaving anything up to that guy.
Yeah, would
Even
you?
if in hindsight it's 2 days. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
like, the game is also currently under threat. Like, in 75 days, if they haven't got a new publisher, it could happen again. We don't have any guarantees that any of that stuff won't happen. So the compensation is like for an actual thing, not just, 2 days of downtime. And even if it was 2 days of downtime, there's still people who can't re-download the game.
Yeah. No, I like, is the store still down also?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because I was trying to buy stuff today, and then I was like, oh, wait, no, this is actually good. I should go to the shop webpage because I knew that was up.
That is up, yes, but the in-app store is down. They're probably losing their asses on this, by the way. Like, people not being able to buy stuff in your app, crazy bad.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people don't know about the App Store, right? Because
the web shop, yeah.
Like, yeah, exactly. Sorry. Obviously, like, Apple would much prefer that you buy stuff through their iOS versus the actual website. And I imagine that there is something in place to prevent Second Dinner from directly advertising, like, hey, buy stuff from our store instead.
Yeah.
Which, hey, it makes sense. But I remembered it existed. I went there. I got, I don't know, like 2,000-3,000 points, got some extra loot.
Yeah.
I felt great about myself. The fact that it was down.
Speaking of the web store, they actually, like, this is one of the things where it's like, even Newverse is getting in on being generous right now. The Galactus spin to win thing is now daily and has 100 credit minimum.
Oh yeah, I low rolled. I got the hundo.
I did too.
What was it before? I didn't even know that was a thing before.
Oh, it's been a thing for a while. It was like 60% chance to get 30 boosters, and you could do it once a week. It super sucked.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, Newverse does a bunch of weird stuff with the web shop, bluntly.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
It's like a little carrot. That is your 25 credits for logging in every 8 hours or whatever, right? Like, that is.
Yeah, they added a thing recently to the Galactus gotcha roll on the web shop where in order to claim your reward, you have to click that you're going to go look at the bundles, and then it takes you to the bundles on the web shop before you can claim your reward. And just like, okay, all right, I don't like this. I don't like this, like, the assumptions you're making about me as a human being by including this as your thing is pissing me off.
I have a thing that applies to you directly.
Sure.
When you were talking about the click on this thing to view our bundles, I immediately thought of Khajiit has wares if you have coin.
Yeah, no, that is, but like, it's not even like if you have coin. It's like imagine you're like doing business with a Khajiit, and then they're like, hello, thank you for doing business with me. Would you like to buy some skooma too? Like, that's actually, like, that's the closer analogy here, where it's like, oh yeah, you're buying some weapons, how about drugs? Like, the assumptions that they're making about the person that you are impugn my character. We think you're so weak-willed that you, just by making you view this, you're gonna end up buying this, you absolute pig.
No assumptions. It's just, hey, just in case you didn't know, I also have these wares for sale.
Okay.
And yeah, they may be highly addictive drugs, but like, it's up to you. It's totally your choice, man.
Sure.
You have agency in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
So as far as compensation goes, vastly generous for North America. In my opinion, far more generous for the rest of the world.
Yeah, sorry about that. Like, I think the compensation is just kind of like the indicator that Second Dinner is not to blame, certainly not in a sense of like, oh, they knew and didn't tell the players. I still think that's BS. But like, yeah, just like the relationship with Newverse potentially, especially given the fact that like this was non-zero, even if their publisher did tell them directly that like, oh, this is a non-issue, it's not going to happen. It's like, well, maybe this is not a relationship that you should continue. Not because like they're bad people or they're bad at business, but it's just like, it's kind of dangerous in the current climate or whatever, like maybe we should look for someone else. And they are doing that to their credit, which is great. But yeah, maybe it should have happened a little bit sooner. And like that, it's kind of an apology for that. And I think that that's totally reasonable.
Yeah.
So people outside of the US did not technically lose anything unless it was like, oh, they lost the opportunity to farm the terrible NA players, which, hey, guilty. I
absolutely guilty. Yep.
I'm sorry that I was not there to just donate to the cube pool or whatever.
Yeah, I
But
really missed out on the $50 for 80 cubes, 50 euros for 80 cubes
dude,
while we were offline. Like I couldn't convert. It's like imagine a currency exchange goes down. I can't convert my cubes into dollars, let alone euros.
I normally just give people cubes for free. I don't even get money as a result.
I will also say there is a third angle here, which is this is a player win back program. And I think it should probably be acknowledged as such, where it's like this isn't just them being generous for no reason. This is saying there's a lot of eyes on the game right now. We want the headlines to be about how awesome the compensation is. We want Paul Tassi to write articles about how awesome the compensation is, or at least get a tweet. They did get a tweet. Like, we want this to reach a mainstream audience. He's like a gaming journalist. He writes, like, usually for Forbes, and where a lot of Forbes stuff is just like anyone can publish here, he actually is like a name in the industry in the sense of like he is someone who will report on stuff. So when industry news happens, you can break into a new audience. I'm using him as like a byword for like more mainstream pickups, basically. Like Marvel Snap is a niche game that is getting more mainstream publicity. He is like my example of that being more mainstream.
Paul Tassi, allegedly a real human, not just like some AI pseudonym that is scraping like other web articles.
He is a real person. However, his profile picture on Twitter is like a piece of art, which makes him look like an AI that's scraping. But no, he is a real person. Okay. And the point here is there's attention on Marvel Snap that otherwise would not be, right? And one really good way to win back players is to be like, here is a bunch of free crap. I recently took a sponsorship from a game called AFK Journey, and one of the things they do at the beginning of playing that game is they just throw currency at you. You get so many tickets and rolls and gotcha pulls and all of that stuff. It's really easy to log in when you're just getting like incremental dopamine hits over and over and over and over and over. You're just like getting that kind of stuff. Marvel Snap is not as good at providing that on the scale that the player base wants. Like, yes, it has, you know, the quests and all of that. That stuff is important. It keeps people on the horse, but that's a relatively minimal amount compared to like just giving people a bunch of chances at getting something good. And I think that that's what this compensation represents to a lot of people is like, okay, I am finally going to have a level of agency in Marvel Snap that I have never actually had. I've never had this level of agency. I'm about to have it right now. Whether I'm in the US or I'm in the rest of the world, I'm about to have more agency than ever. I'm about to get 10,000 gold worth of stuff in the rest of the world, 18,000 gold worth of stuff in the US. It's going to be great for my progression, and I'm going to be able to move forward in the game in a way that I never have. And that is a valuable feeling to give people when you have eyes on you.
So content-brained Gerry immediately thinks, that there is then a market to cater to those players, right? So like they're going to be looking for things such as like series tier lists or like what is the card that adds the most to your account if you are at like X point in the game or whatever, right? So get on that. I'm sure you are already because you're good at your job.
I'm actually not on it already because I'm very bad at my job. This has been a common discussion. People have been dunking on me for the way in which I manage ads on Twitch and YouTube, which, to be fair, very lazy about it. 100% lazy about it. Because on Twitch,
I'm a sub, so I don't know.
On Twitch, I let them run. On YouTube, I don't do anything to them. I just let YouTube auto set them. I do nothing on either platform. I have, I think, the minimum amount of ads set on Twitch to not get pre-rolls. It might be a minute more than that. I can't remember if they changed the minimum to not get pre-rolls or not. The point is, I have a fairly minimal amount of Twitch ads, relatively speaking, I think, and I do not manage them manually, in part because I'm lazy, but also in part because I am not good at taking a 3-minute break. I have no ability to actually do that. Like, there are a bunch of other streamers who really are content-brained in terms of, like, their job is the content, right? Like, I am a content creator. It doesn't matter if I'm winning or losing. I care deeply about winning and losing every single day. And if I'm losing...
To your detriment.
Yes, extremely to my detriment, in this case especially. If I'm losing, I'm not clicking play. I can't do it. Like, I don't have the ability. I'm sorry. Like, I just don't. And... I've been getting a lot of crap on that.
You're not supposed to take breaks during a 3-minute ad break or whatever.
You are. Everyone's like, you run your 3 minutes of ads while you're not playing gameplay. This is like a thing that I actually, my pet theory is that like this started because Jeff Hoagland noticed other people doing it and started like subtweeting about it. Like, I can't believe streamers don't respect their audience to the level of not running ads over gameplay. And so now I get people who are like, I can't believe you don't respect your audience. And it's like, no. I don't respect you. Personally, this is a decision I made aimed at you personally. If you're going to complain about this, I do not care. Second of all, I mean, I may be a Twitch streamer. I'm not stupid. I know for a fact there are ad blockers that work on Twitch. I know for a fact there are. This is not speculation. You're just not looking hard enough. Third, I'm not even going to be like sub to me, but Twitch Turbo is right there. Like, it's right there. I've actually thought about getting Turbo because it just seems like a good idea at this point. But it's just like, I think more important than that, there's this thing that happens where people will come into my chat and then announce that they are leaving because of ads. And it's like, that specific thing bothers me because it's like,
it's literally the entire platform.
Sure, whatever. I don't begrudge you not wanting to watch me. There's a billion people out there who don't want to watch me. That's fine. But making it like, this is not an airport. You don't need to announce your departure. You could just go, dude. You don't need to like make it my problem and try to make me feel bad for what I'm doing while I'm at work. It seems like just sort of an unnecessary thing to do. And
main character syndrome.
Long way of saying, I actually had a very productive conversation with someone who got mad at me for this. They were very nice. Like after they cooled down and they were just like very nice, and I had a very productive conversation. Shout out to them for that. But they're not the only person who's done this, and they're the only one I've had a productive conversation with.
That's one of many.
It's one guy. But the long way of saying this is I actually am a terrible content creator. I'm just very grateful that my audience tolerates how terrible I am, you know?
I don't think that it is a good idea to run like 3-minute ads and then you take a break, unless you actually need a break. I think that's fine. But like, it's not like disrespectful to your audience necessarily to do ads during content, because that is the thing that is supposed to incentivize people to sub to you.
I don't even think about it like that. Like, that's genuinely not even what I do.
No, I know you don't. I'm just saying, like, holistically, that is how the platform is supposed to operate. And I think that's reasonable. It's like, if you're mad that you can't watch the guy, support him, because clearly you like his stuff and you want to watch him, right? So, like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
Like, oh, if only there was something you could do to fix this. But, like, when there are people who do sub to you to remove the ads and then you just AFK for 3 minutes, it is disrespectful to those people. And those are the people who are handing you money.
That's actually true. I never thought about that. I think most people, that's I'm like devaluing the subscriber value that they get out of that. I never thought about that. It's worth noting that it's been 6 minutes of us not talking about the actual topic, and B,
comp good.
Yes, that is actually what B is. Comp good. Do you want to talk a little bit about the EU versus NA kind of side of this compensation?
I mean, I don't want to say like, oh, you know, EU should be happy that they're getting anything or whatever. I think it's cool that they're
that's
getting
kind of how I feel.
I mean, like I said, I think that there is legitimate reason for SD to give them something. I think it is maybe a little weird to give literally everyone on the platform free stuff if your gameplay was not interrupted. But I think both sides of what Second Dinner did is like very, very generous. It's just, oh man, like, yeah, I wish I was in NA and my stuff went down or whatever. And it's like,
yeah,
I don't know. I can't honestly say that, like, if I were on the opposite side of things. Hiccup. Sorry.
Nice. It was really good. We're leaving that in.
That I would be like, where's my free stuff?
I would be like that. I want to be super clear. I am clowning the people who are like that, but I would totally be like that. As a hater, why should they get stuff that I don't get? Come on. That's ridiculous. I don't want anyone to have I don't want a good thing to happen to you. It should happen to me instead. What are we doing here?
Is there like a student loan parallel here?
Yeah, kind of. I think you can sort of make the like map the argument there. Where
Like I paid off my student loan and you're just getting all this money for free effectively, and it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, how dare you? How dare you? How dare a good thing happen to you that didn't happen to me? It's ridiculous.
yeah. I mean, it's different in that, like, all right, yeah, your kids might then have to pay student
Sure, yeah.
loans
Well,
still.
like the thing about it that
It's not like
strikes
they
me is
suddenly make college free or whatever, but
like the argument is basically like how dare a good thing happen to America that didn't happen to everyone else? And it's
I mean, to
like
be clear, I don't feel like America deserves anything nice, really. So
sure. The but like the specific thing is like there's this focus on how good the compensation is for America, right? Like how much better it is than everything else, or how good this is. And it's like that is indicative of them doing their jobs correctly because they have taken a bad thing and they have made it a thing that other people are now jealous of. Objectively, the worst situation in the history of Marvel Snap happened to the United States. It is now being regarded as a thing to be jealous of because of how good they were at managing that situation. Got the game up in 2 days. Massive compensation. Working around the clock to get it back up. Gonna try to get it up before they even have to try to get it back on the app stores in time so they don't even miss a freaking patch. Like this is an A+ job by Second Dinner.
also putting it up when the store doesn't work, right? It's
Yeah,
like it's not really to their benefit at that
no.
point.
Like I think it probably is to their benefit because it's like they're making 40 cents on the dollar or whatever of what they would normally make with the store up, but at least people can play the game, and a longer outage would be worse for people in terms of them getting out of the ability to like get them out of the login loop basically.
And it means that maybe like they feel justified to give smaller comp compared
Yeah.
to if it was down for like a week or 2 weeks or whatever. Like yeah, sure. Like it's not zero. But they're not making direct dollars from it.
Yeah. And I do think that they basically handled it so well, and this is the PR gold standard, right? You handle a bad thing so well that people are now jealous that the bad thing didn't happen to them. There's just nothing else you can say. It's amazing. It's a really good thing. And I think that that is objectively an amazing, amazing job from Second Dinner in a way that I just don't think I've seen in a very long time.
I think
And
I have a better way to put this in perspective.
sure.
So, if you are a person who is not from NA,
Hmm.
try looking at the situation through this lens where your proposed solution is that like everyone should get the same comp maybe, or like that's what you wish happens, that you didn't feel othered or whatever, despite again nothing really happening to you, you not being slighted. Like this is the slight, is that
Yeah.
you don't get the free thing that like you weren't going to get anyway, right? But your proposed solution is everyone gets the same comp. So like, do you think that SD should flatten the comp and spread it out across everyone? Or do you think they should just give away what they're giving to NA to everyone? Well, if they did that, I feel like that would have like pretty bad ramifications to the economy.
I don't even think it's that. I would be mad as someone from the US who was affected if a bunch of people who weren't affected got the same compensation I did. Because that implies to
I
me
wouldn't.
that
I wouldn't.
to me that implies that they took that it was a lower level. That the people who like there is obviously a spreadsheet at Second Dinner
Sure.
where they're like, this is our number for what is acceptable to expend on this compensation. There's obviously a number that is on an Excel spreadsheet or whatever it is they use there in like an internal Discord or Slack or whatever.
If that is true, whatever that number is, or whatever the first draft of that number was, I think they exceeded it. I'm going to be honest.
Sure. But either way, there is like a concrete financial cost to the company for everything they give out, which means there is definitely someone running numbers on how much it's okay to give out. And there are people who were like, we should give more out. And there are people who are like, we should give less out. And obviously, the people who say we should give more out want out. But there is a number, there is a budget here. And if that budget gets expended on people who didn't get affected, as someone who did get affected, I feel like I'd be like, why are you even calling this compensation?
I guess you yeah, you're looking at it like either side feels like if the other side gets something, then it took out of their pocket or whatever.
I don't see how it's possible that that didn't happen. I don't see how it's possible that the compensation for the rest of the world is so generous without considering the counterfactual of if it wasn't that generous, would the people who were actually affected get more? Obviously, I'm not saying we deserve more. I think what they did was correct. The way they're focusing it on how they are looking to win back players, I think that's amazing. I think they did the right thing. But if they had made it fully flat, I would be willing to bet that it would be NA getting less rather than everyone getting what NA got.
Yeah, and I think so too because of like the economy or whatever, right? And like
Yes.
that is effectively what everyone else is asking for, and it's just like I don't think that that's doable, and I think that there is a threshold at which NA would be satiated,
Mhm.
and clearly the current NA comp has surpassed that.
By a lot.
But yeah, but if you have to reward comp to everyone and therefore you have to flatten it, I believe that it comes in well under that threshold, and then they're not capitalizing on the good PR and all that's or not good PR, but like the PR that
Yeah.
they have. And yeah, I think that the situation is much worse in general. So like this is just good for Snap and longevity. Like if you like this game, even if you hate this game, I mean, I would still like it to be around in case I wanted to come back to it later, you know? Like I want this game to succeed. I want it to have longevity. And this is a good step towards achieving that, you know? By a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. I want to segue into something else because I believe we mentioned on the podcast about last week. We apparently we talked about this. I don't remember talking about it. I had not slept before that podcast, but apparently we talked about the bug that allows you to repeat the
Like copycat abs man or
yeah,
whatever.
that thing, right?
No,
Uh
we did not talk.
we didn't
I
talk
learned about it today.
someone on the Discord told me, and everyone on Discord is always telling the truth, that I talked about it on this podcast. If I didn't talk about it on this podcast, I have once again been gaslit and misled by the main Marvel Snap Discord. And on that subject, I guess I wanted to talk about some, I don't even know if I would call it drama. It's just like Lamal. There's a moderator on the Marvel Snap Discord
I saw they were farming.
who was using the bug, which, as far as I'm concerned, as someone, I have never used the bug, but I was going to consider it. Like, I went out of my way to try to look for guidance from Second Dinner to be like, hey, am I allowed to put this stuff on the tier list decks? I have some of my friends who were telling me they think this stuff is good.
Come on,
And
man. Common sense.
I asked. I was like, hey, what's going on here? And because there have been bugs in this game before. Like, Dracula discarding Null was on the tier list. That used to work. Like, Null would get power in hand, and he's not supposed to get power in hand, and you would Dracula and discard the Null, and people would play that and destroy.
Okay, so what does the current bug do? Because I know it involves those two cards.
The current bug is if you have an Absorbing Man that copied nothing in the same lane as a Symbiote Spider-Man, and the Symbiote Spider-Man is able to copy the Absorbing Man, that copied Absorbing Man copying something else will trigger that something else 31 times. So, Hazmat, Gambit.
Okay.
That's typically the stuff that you're going to be seeing it with. Discard stuff generally. The weird thing is the deck that the moderator was farming with, and in my opinion, fairly unwisely bragging about farming with. I just think it's probably like kind of a bad look to be like, I'm gonna abuse a bug and farm as a moderator on the official Marvel Snap Discord. Like that's probably not a great idea.
It's not great.
I see nothing wrong personally with using what's in the game to play the game. A lot of that is colored by the fact that I think the deck the guy was playing like actually sucks. And because I knew about the bug, it's like not the kind of thing that like, oh, I'm terrified about, right? Like it's just like it basically ends up being like Galactus, where it's like, all right, if they have their setup, they Galactus me, I guess I die, right? Like that's how the deck seems to play out. But like because so many people just had no idea, the guy was able to climb a lot. And I remember I was in a Twitch chat that he came into, and he mentioned he was climbing, and I like literally didn't believe it. I was like, this deck does not look good. How are you climbing? Like, how do people not know about this? And I guess that's the answer, right? Like, I fell victim to one of the classic blunders, which is I overestimated the intelligence of the public. My bad.
It's not intelligence. It's like being terminally online. Like I said, I found out about it today. I heard like rumblings of a bug a couple days ago, but I didn't know what it was. Certainly not enough to like, oh, build a deck, exploit it, whatever. And then just today, randomly scrolling when I was in transit, it was I came across like, oh, it's Absorbing Man and something.
Yes.
Like they mentioned like literal copycat.
Yeah, you can do it with like Iron Lad and Copycat. What it is like when something copies something that would copy something.
Sure.
That is like the chain of events that causes it. But like in order to specifically exploit it, it ends up being Absorbing Man Spider-Man. Like that's or Absorbing Man Symbiote Spider-Man. That's like like what the exploit is like Absorbing Man Symbiote Spider-Man and like some on reveal you want to copy 31 times. Ironheart.
I don't know,
whatever.
man. Common sense. Maybe I am just a boomer and I'm showing my age. I've been around the block a few times. I've seen some shit, you know. But I think it is just pretty common practice that if you're in a game abusing a bug, like that is an exploit, you are gonna get punished. Like you are risking that.
I guess
and
so.
I think that even just like asking second dinner or like telling people like, oh, yo, this is tier 1. You should do this if you want to climb.
Well, no, I am
just bad.
I am definitely too ethical to do the you should abuse this bug. But there is a world in which I was like, do I have if this stuff is actually good, do I have an ethical obligation to my audience to mention it on the tier list?
I mean, yeah, there's the argument of any sort of further popularizing of the exploit is contributing to the problem.
I think now that they've officially announced that there will be evaluating punishments for people, that is more negligible than anything else. Where it's like, once they've officially addressed it, it's like, okay, now I don't feel bad about like talking about it a little bit because we can be very clear that if you do it, you're going to get punished, or they're at least evaluating punishments, whatever that means. The point is, there is an exploit in the game, but also I don't even think it's good. Like, straight up.
And I think doing that with the caveat of, hey, don't use this because they could punish you. They could ban your account.
Yeah.
Like is a good way to kind of, I don't know, fix the problem of like, oh, you further advertising that it exists or whatever. It's like you're also disincentivizing people from doing it.
No, I mean, like I did reach out, like specifically, I was like looking for like, hey, what the hell am I supposed to do about this? And luckily though, I reached out like basically just before they posted their official statement, which saved me from actually having to like think about the ethical implications of what I had to do. So like I reached out, and then like probably like 30 minutes later, there was the official statement of like, hey, we're gonna take action on this. So that's good.
Okay.
That's good. Like I'm glad that things ended up happening in that vein, because it probably is the correct thing to do. But I guess maybe it is like if the bug was actually good, I think I'd have a much larger problem with it. Also, secondary quibble, a lot of the Reddit posts were like, this guy farmed all the way to top infinite with the bug. And they were talking about like top 200. It's like, okay, man, chill with calling that top infinite. All right. Relax, bro.
Like, as someone who is currently rank 80 and some change.
Sure. Yeah.
That sounds like the moon to me. If I entered infinite, I'd be dumpster level, you know?
Yeah. It's just like, I do think like the whole thing is very funny to me, but I am interested because it's like one of the things I saw, the guy who made the Reddit thread DM'd me, and he was like, hey, Cam, can you bring like visibility to this? And I was like, I think at this point, Second Dinner already knows. Me bringing visibility to it might be pretty stupid. But one of the things he mentioned is like, in MTG, we expose cheaters. And that got me thinking about the podcast we did about the cheaters. Yeah. Is that ethically any different? Is there an ethical difference between cheating in a Magic tournament and bug abuse in a game? Do you see anything there?
So cheating at like any level is akin to stealing.
That is my thought, yes.
Especially if there are tournaments where like money is on the line, you have taken equity out of someone's pocket. regardless of whatever excuse you want to use, like, oh, they're bad. They were gonna beat me, but they were gonna lose all their other rounds or whatever. It's like, no, shut up. Like you're still stealing. And in this instance, Snap playing on ladder, like there's not money on the line unless you're directly equating like 8 cubes to 50 euros.
There
But
can be.
it's not nothing. Like cubes do matter to people, and maybe someone is like trying to way too much for you. Not enough for you to pay for it, which is great. You have integrity. I do appreciate that.
I'm
I love
also
that about
broke. Are you kidding me? I'm not paying those prices.
you. Fair, yeah. Inflation, the
Yeah.
economy out of control.
Joe Biden.
So like if my goal is to hit infinite, so I'm not D-ranked an extra 10 levels and you steal 8 cubes from me or however many, you have effectively added that much more time to my grind because I have to make up those cubes and then also gain the cubes that I would have won otherwise.
So you
And
regard it
so
as
you are stealing my time. Time is
Yeah.
money to some degree, right? And I think it is unethical at the very least. Maybe it is not directly stealing. You're not taking equity out of someone's pocket, but like time is valuable, and regardless of how the person wants to spend it, you know?
That's interesting because my instinct was I don't really care. Like I was just sort of out here like, like I don't really plan on playing it, but not because of any like ethical reason. I just don't think it's very good. And so like I was just like, I don't know, this stuff doesn't seem very good, but if people are playing it, I don't know. It does strike me as like one of those things where the real impetus for people being angry about the bug was like very explicitly there is a Discord moderator doing it and they are
It's bad
mad
look.
about that. It's a bad look. It is.
Bad look.
I can't argue with that. For what it's worth, as far as I know, that person is no longer a Discord moderator. And then there is this second order thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, but it might be getting too far into the weeds. So we're going to do 2 minutes on it, and then hopefully it won't digress further from there. A lot of people from Reddit were coming into the Marvel Snap Discord and like naming this person and saying they needed to be banned, and then being banned for witch hunting because that's what that is. And
It's disruptive for sure.
I think very specifically, you are just not allowed to show up in a Discord and be like, you must take action on person X. And it's odd because I think morally and ethically, you have made the case here that they are correct. They're correct to be mad. They're correct to be upset. And that removal of their posts to that effect could constitute something negative. I do think, though, that it's like there was a lot of like people joining directly witch hunting and then being banned for witch hunting. And it's like, well, you were doing that even if you were right.
So here's the thing. People who engage in witch hunts, what is your goal? And I need you to think about that. And you're going to tell yourself or like tell your Reddit homies or whatever, like, I am doing this for altruistic reasons.
Justice.
I'm out to, justice to get this person who is like wronging the community that I care about. It's like, no, you're out for blood. You want to stir shit up because that is the way that you're going about things. Your actions indicate to me what your goals are. It is just to be disruptive and to cause chaos and just start some shit, which is not great. Again, not a good look. If your goal was to actually like, get this person banned because you thought that them abusing a bug on ladder was unethical or whatever, you would probably go into the Discord politely, ask like, hey, I have a concern about like this sort of thing. Where should I direct that? You don't just like brigade a Discord, start making demands, like that is not going to accomplish the goal of like, getting this person.
I mean, it did
nicely and quietly.
Hold on. It did. It worked.
No, I mean, maybe it will, but like that is likely a thing that they would have done otherwise,
right.
Not as a result of these people coming in and just like throwing a tantrum.
There's this thing that happens in gamer circles where like the most extreme reactions love demanding credit for any change that happens, right? And so when someone who like gets furiously mad at whatever game for a living the thing that they were mad at gets changed. They're like, oh, I did that by getting furiously mad. And it's like, you probably didn't do it with the hyperbole. Like, you did it by representing accurately that people were upset, right? Like, that's the thing where it's like, what was represented accurately is that this is a bad look. It's a bad thing for a moderator to be doing that and bragging about it. Very clearly, correct. And I think there's this idea that unless you kick up a huge stink and are very angry and loud and all caps, that nothing will get done about anything. And that happens a lot in gamer circles. And I can tell you that I've changed entire aspects of my personality based on one-off comments. So, like, it's not just the loud people that get hurt. I can tell you that for sure. And there's this tendency to mistake a lot of the way gamers take collective action is by collective yelling. And I think people think that it's the yelling and not the collective part. And it's what it really is the collective part that gets things done. And the yelling is just the method by which you are acting as a collective.
Yeah, and again, like, if you have a goal in mind and you think that this goal is for the greater good, is for altruism, to serve that to some degree, stop and think about your communication strategy and what would best achieve that outcome. Because I think if you sat and thought about it for 2 seconds, you would realize just like screaming at the top of your lungs is not the best way to go about it. Not the best way to communicate your points. Not the best way to accomplish anything.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give it to the screamers, but also I think that, like, if the thing that you're protesting is so self-evidently bad, what is it that you think people won't do if you're not screaming?
Instead, you're just being disruptive and just a nuisance.
Yeah.
And it's like you end up being the villain.
It's hard.
It's
One of the
just
things that
silly.
happens to me on the internet is people will be right, but be assholes while doing it. And I'll be like sort of reverse engineered into like, I don't like you. Like,
Yeah.
it sucks so bad. Like, all the people who were mad about Marvel Snap, the series drop, like when they first went to flexible series drops, I said it was bad, but I also said, like, you know, okay, I hope that it doesn't end up like this. They can manage this in ways. And there were a bunch of people who I viewed at the time as like overly negative, being like, they will never manage this in the right way. They are going to screw us. You guys are being ridiculous, you absolute shill. And, you know, shout out to those people. They were right. Like, they got my ass.
I mean, well, yeah, blind squirrel,
yeah,
broken clock, etc. Like, those people, like, with that mentality, it's like, why do you still play the game if you just have zero faith in them?
Yeah. I think a lot of them don't now.
Literally go do anything else.
I think a lot of them
get a hobby,
now.
touch grass.
Oh, no, you can't ask people to touch grass. That's ridiculous. There's snow all over the South right now.
Touch snow.
Yeah.
Touch snow.
Yeah. With all of that said, I just think that it's just a really, really hysterical moment for me, where it's like, you know, yes, this is serious, but also what we're really getting mad about is a deck that I am almost positive is like a 45% win rate over a large sample size. It's like, I'm not saying, like, if we call it cheating, it's like cheating to lose. Like, this is not.
Given that it's like, I need Absorbing Man specifically, yes. I need to like copy a thing that would have copied a thing. It sounds like
specifically two 4-drops that no deck plays.
Yeah, and you effectively you built different Living Tribunal is what happened.
Yes, that is exactly what it is. Like, you built a different version of Living Tribunal where it's like, you just wait till I get my combo off. It's just like, yeah, I guess. It's like,
and like, yeah, you can beat people because like they like given, you know, board states on turn 5, they might just be like, why are they snapping me?
That is
they literally can't win. I can't think of any combination. I'll snap them back, and then they get got by an exploit or whatever, right?
Yes,
like
that is, I think, it. Like, that is the only actual advantage the deck had, is that apparently people just didn't know enough about it. If you look at like how the actual deck plays, it's like, it's like, imagine if you were the only person who owned the card Living Tribunal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, yeah, when you put it like that, it's a little unfair.
More than that, it's just like, imagine you play on ladder and your opponent plays a card against you that no one has ever seen.
Yeah. If you
because the text box on the stuff that is happening is effectively hidden. Like
is,
there
yes.
is extra text there that should not be there.
Correct. Anyway,
31 times, in fact.
31 times. I don't know why that is. I think it's like that's like their cap is like that's the most an honor reveal can happen in a row. And it's just like hard coded in at the end of like whatever algorithm that decides that my Modoc discarding 2 cards needs to get fast forwarded, but that 10 minutes of Odin doesn't. Whatever that is, it also has this hard limit coded in, apparently.
And then this, for whatever reason, this combination sets up like, oh, do this thing. Hit the limit
it like sort
whatever.
of shortcuts
like,
its way. It shortcuts its way to the limit, basically, like Missigno in Pokemon. Are you familiar?
Missigno?
You don't know Missigno?
Missing no.
Yeah, okay, that's how it's actually spelled, but nobody says it like that.
Missing number.
That's I know it's missing number, but no one actually calls it that because everyone was 6 years old when they first learned about it and they said it that way. And that's how it was typed on the internet by a bunch of children. I remember this deeply.
Okay, when I was playing Pokemon, I was definitely a little too old to be playing Pokemon.
Sure.
And it was definitely a thing that I played and loved and didn't tell anyone about because I was a little too old for it. But I mean, like that stuff holds up. Different culture, different times.
Yes. Anyway, it's sort of like that. It's just like hitting the limit or whatever, and just being like.
So yeah, maybe I had better reading comprehension and I understood that it was missing number. Maybe that was because I'm old.
Yeah.
But Missigno, I've literally never
heard that. Man,
that's crazy.
Chat, sound off in the comments. Am I right? Is he right? Please don't tell me he's right, because like I know he is.
I was like, were you having a stroke? Are you speaking Italian? Like, what's going on right now?
I'm just adopting that Andrea Mengucci mentality, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I anyway, that is the sum of that discussion is basically official statement Lamau. Anyway, actual Marvel Snap news, Ares is coming out.
Oh, I was
ready. You were about to do a Bullseye thing? Are you aware that you're kind of dressed like Gambit today? Is that a thing you were aware of before I said it?
Okay. I wish I knew that this was coming. I would have practiced my shares and, you know, about to make a name for myself.
Oh my god. That might be the worst accent I've ever heard.
That's what I'm saying. I need practice. I clearly need practice.
That is bad. Okay.
I would have called up my boy Channing Tatum. Got some tips. Dude, Gambit tight.
Sure. That actually sounds like a line Channing Tatum's Gambit would say. Like, that is... I expect to see that in the Gambit Deadpool spinoff. Anyway,
Please, dear God, happen.
The card I wanted to talk about was Ares. I wanted to clear up a couple misconceptions. Ares, a 4/6 that is going to not reveal, but look at the power of the top 3 cards of both your and your opponent's library. If you have more cards, or you have more power, it will get +6, so it would be a 4/12. Couple things I wanted to highlight here. One, Ares, the god of war, is effectively playing War, the card game. Extremely good flavor. 2, I'm seeing a lot of people talk about how, oh, KM, the number one question I've gotten about this card is, do you think Ares will be good in mill? No, it's not a mill card. I think people are looking at this card and being like, oh, if I just get rid of all the cards in their deck, they could never win, and it's always a 4/12. One other really good way to make sure that they can never win is just by running a lot of 10s, like an asserter deck.
True. I will note though that deck is fallen off. Like, definitely got hit by some nerfs and whatnot, right? So I mean, it is definitely an upgrade to a lot of the random garbage E410s that they were playing, right?
Oh,
yeah. But is it going to be enough to make that deck a contender again? Because it's not even like, oh, this was showing up on the KM like tier 3. Like, people just don't play it anymore.
I don't think they don't play it because it's bad. I think they don't play it because it's boring. But Surtur's issue has always been a fairly capped point ceiling. Yeah. Where it has a capped point ceiling and then it gets to run like usually Cosmo and Shadow King. And that can put you in a good position, or it could put you in a bad position where you have tools to deal with stuff, but it's not necessarily the exact tools you always want in given metagames, and you can be super vulnerable to just like guy goes taller than you because your max power in a lane is usually like 30. And it's always like pretty clear where that power is because you're playing a bunch of 10s. And so it's like, okay, I'm just going to avoid the lane that they put their 412 in, and then I'm going to avoid, like I'm going to be able to attack the weakest 2 lanes against a Surtur deck basically always.
Yeah,
And
and they can occasionally nut draw you to get over it or whatever,
absolutely.
but it's really hard for them to, and like you're gonna know if they have it,
Yes.
based on how many tens they already have in play.
Yeah.
So
And so, like, you have these games where it's like, yeah, you can do stuff. There are, like, cool tricks you can pull with Arrow to make them go into the lane that you have your power in and sort of obviate that. There's cool stuff where you have Cosmo, and there's cool stuff where you have Shadow King. And it's like, the deck is, I think, better than people give it credit for, but it's not good enough to justify how boring it is for most people, I think. Like, there's
yeah,
just not a lot of excitement there. This is one of the things that happens in Snap is like a deck will be perfectly fine, but just there's not a compelling reason to play it, and so it sort of falls off because nobody finds that compelling reason to play it. And then like some guy who's been playing it the whole time will be like, why is no one talking about this deck? It's totally fine. And it's like, yeah, it is totally fine. I think Surfer has been that deck basically forever. Where it's like
yeah,
it's just totally fine. It's always
it's
going to be
okay. It's
totally
got
fine.
issues, but
Yeah, like sometimes you play a 27 power brood, and it's like the coolest thing of all time. And it's like, yeah, that's sick. That's sick nasty. You can
yeah,
keep with anything when you do that.
but like I think Surfer and to some extent Surtur has more limitations
Hmm.
with like 2 season pass cards in it. But
Yes.
it's like Surfer is a pretty good budgety style deck where someone's like, "Oh,
Hmm.
I'm missing like these key series 5 cards, like what are some decks I can build?" It's like, "Yeah, this is fine. You could probably climb with this, you
It
know?"
absolutely is. Like Surfer it's never gonna be probably the best deck in the game, but it's gonna be totally fine for a while, I think. Like just
What, are
having
they gonna stop making 3 cost cards? It just gets better with time, baby. What do you mean?
Oh my god. I kind of miss the days when it wasn't played out for a 3 cost card to come out and then someone be like, does this go in
Someone's like,
Surfer?
"Surfer?
Yeah. Like, just
Surfer
like,
card?
I
Are we
need
back, man? Are we back?"
And then the actual best card for Surfer to ever happen was a 4 cost.
Yeah.
The Galacta's great. It's an
It
amazing
is
card
great.
in that deck. She
And it
rocks.
did mostly push out Gwenpool, right?
Give or take. Like, there's still like 3 4-drop builds of Surfer. There's still 2 4-drop builds of Surfer. It kind of depends. Uh, it's definitely better than Gwenpool by a lot. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
That's enough for me.
yeah,
That's
no,
it. I'll take that. I'll count that as a dub.
sure. And so the main thing with Ares is I don't know what his home is. There's some interesting stuff you can do, right? Like you can do Ares Grandmaster. That's kind of cool. A 412 is just good value. Maybe he'll just be running stuff. But here's the thing. Malekith right now is basically a 412 on stats that draws a card and doesn't get tech carded.
12 is high.
12 is high, but like you can get Gladiator. He can be 14. Like
That's a high roll.
that
That's a
is a
very
high
high
roll.
roll.
Again, but it's like how many stats is
There
Luke Cage on average worth in that deck? It's more. It's more than that.
there are some deck building restrictions. It's not without an opportunity cost. Ares
Yes.
is the same, to be fair.
Yes.
I think that there are going to be metagames though where it's like you could just look at some of the top decks and be like, these decks are not winning off of like the base power of their cards.
Yes.
And like I think Mill, it does kind of fit this bill because there are things like Zemo and Gladiator where it's like, I don't know, maybe their average power is just like pretty high and like you don't have to like completely deck burn them to trigger Ares or whatever. Like maybe the card is fine in that archetype. I don't know that that is the thing that is going to push Mill over the top is like getting another kind of big beater, right? Is
First
that
of
the thing
all,
that they're lacking?
Mill's already good. That deck's already good.
It's,
It's barely a
yeah,
Mill
I
deck, but it's
mean,
already good. Second of
yeah, I was gonna
all,
say it's an Iron Patriot like
right.
V-hand
It's
deck,
just
right?
like no,
So
it's not a V-hand deck, but it's just like the best at Iron Patriot follow-up because you have Zemo and Gladiator. You just have like
yeah,
the
fair.
biggest threes in the entire game. You also have like death stuff to go over the top of other Iron Patriot decks. So it's like not only are you better at being an Iron Patriot deck, you are also better at beating other Iron Patriot decks. And you have this like random upside against combo decks where like another deck queuing into a combo deck just always loses when the combo goes off. You can just like randomly blow up their stuff that actually matters or steal it or whatever. It's not
Yondu, you're absorbing man.
Yondu,
You
yeah.
concede.
Yondu's actually the reason why I think Ares might suck in Mill. I am getting a card out of their deck that I want to see in the Ares. I am playing multiple Yondus and removing their weak hits on the Ares.
Well, I mean, you could still play like quote unquote Mill and not play the Yondu, right? Like,
I think Yondu's
don't
pretty
know.
important to the death part of the game plan for what it's worth. But like, yeah, you could do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess death is good with Ares, so there's that angle. But you could do it without death potentially. Like there are different ways to build it, but like, yeah, I mean, you could do things like Zemo Gladiator. That's good with Iron Patriot. Those cards are also above average stats for Ares. You're looking at some points here now. I don't know if that's exactly what you need. If that like really just like nudges you over the top, it's entirely possible it does. But yeah, realistically, I'd be looking for cards that add different dimensions to decks. Whereas this is kind of like more of the same of what they're really doing, honestly. And sometimes that is good enough. But this is a thing where it's like, you're kind of starting at a detriment with your Yondu Zemo Gladiator package. Is this the thing that's going to do it? I'm guessing not, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think Mill is good enough that adding a card like Ares to it would be making the deck worse, basically. And I guess outside of specifically Scar Surtur, I don't know that this guy goes anywhere. Like, he seems like he might be the biggest dud of the season, in part because of things like, move bounce point totals are too high. Discard with Bullseye can actually compete with them. We'll get to that in a second. There's some really crazy Bullseye stuff happening. Iron Patriots in a bunch of mid-range decks. Victoria Hands in a bunch of mid-range decks. Like, there's a lot of strong stuff going very tall happening right now. And if I had to guess, I would guess that Ares and Moonstone are the bottom two cards of this season.
Yeah, Moonstone's still okay. You know, I think overall season pretty impactful.
It's a pretty. I will say I was pretty pro Iron Patriot nerf, or at least worried that we would get to a point where Iron Patriot needed a nerf. I am now no longer worried about that, which is crazy. It's just like it keeps happening.
It is a phenomenal card, but like I said, man, good incentives. And it does encourage you to build your deck in a certain way, both to utilize it and to combat it. And now with things like Mill, people have figured out ways like, okay, if I just play some 3/8s,
just
maybe
play some
my
3/8s.
Iron Patriots are better than theirs.
Play some 3/8s, play the hood, like all that stuff. Like that stuff's really sick. And there's just kind of a lot of, I guess the way to phrase it would be, I feel like probably 4 or 5 cards over the last 2 months have come out and I've been like, oh man, you might need to nerf this. And then 2 weeks later, I'm just like, wow, that was a dumb overreaction by KMBest. Like, it's happened a lot.
I mean, I don't think this one is dumb for whatever that's worth. I think it's just like a card is really good.
It's a really good card.
And you have to do very specific things to be strong against it. But like there is counterplay, it does exist. You just have to be a little bit more thoughtful.
Yeah. I mean, I have found myself really enjoying when I have the tools to contest Iron Patriot, because like when both of us play Iron Patriot, there's this little interplay of, is someone going to reinforce? Fun. Is someone going to contest?
I
feel like I've come out. I play a lot of decks that are good into that, so I feel like I've come out on the good side of that a lot. Like, of the Iron Patriot decks I play in the last week, probably Mill is my most played, and that is the best Iron Patriot deck at being good into other Iron Patriot decks. So that is like basically where I'm at on it, where it's like I've had the better of that basically for the entire last week. So maybe that's why I feel like Iron Patriot isn't that messed up.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is like other people should be doing that. Like that is the constraint that the card puts on a format, whether or not, you think it should be as heavy-handed as it is. And I talked about like the season having a lot of power. I mean, yeah, a lot of it like Iron Patriot is very load-bearing to that, and to a lesser degree Victoria Hand, sure. But the card changes stuff for better or for worse. I think a lot of it is for the better though.
Yeah. Iron Patriot's been a good addition to the metagame. Ares, I kind of expect to be not like a Bruce Banner level whiff, but like
No.
I would expect him to make a roughly similar level of metagame impact unless someone is able to make a Surtur build that is actually great. Now, I do
No,
think,
because Bruce did 0,
sure,
right?
I do think that like I will investigate Surtur because one of the constraints that Surtur has been operating under is you need like crap in the deck so you can play Cull Obsidian. What if you didn't need to play crap in the deck? What if that allows Surtur to be more of a package, right? Like, what if your early game could be something other than 3/1 drops that you have to run to play Cull Obsidian, right? Like,
Yeah,
what
and
if
that
what if we could do
that
good stuff?
necessitates, like, skipping your 2 also a lot
Yes,
of the time.
because you have to get the rest of this crap in here. And so, like,
Yeah.
what if Surtur is able to, with less restrictions on it, become a deck that can actually sort of like splice itself in? You have Surtur, you have Ares, you have Scar, you have 2 or 3 other 10s, and then you have a totally different game plan welded on with the remaining 5 cards.
Is there something that facilitates, like, Kate Bishop kind of does this, where you play, like, Kate on 2, Iron Patriot on 3, alongside something else to fill your curve, and then, like, Surtur is gonna be very good at winning Iron Patriot on 4, right?
Yes, yeah,
Like,
it
Surtur the
yes,
deck,
if
not the
yes,
card.
yes, if you play Iron Patriot on 3 and then a 4/10 into that lane, you're probably getting the guy.
Probably, especially if it's a location that your opponent hasn't played on yet,
Yeah,
right? So, I feel like there could be, like, that dimensional aspect to Surtur too, where it's like
agree.
we haven't seen these decks try to utilize some of the new stronger cards like Iron Patriot. That
Yes.
may require a retooling a little bit instead of going, like, Iron Patriot into Gladiator or whatever. It's like you try and set up the situation so you play it on 3, hopefully not just, like, burning an energy. But I don't know, maybe you Bruced on 2, man.
I mean,
I don't know,
I
kinda
think
sick.
you actually are just like Iron Patriot gladiatoring in this deck. I think you actually are doing
No,
that.
yeah, you could.
Like,
I'm just saying that, like, if you're playing a bunch of 4/10s
yeah,
and Ares, then you're gonna look at a lot of hands where you're like, "Well, it's a lot better if I just Iron Patriot on 3."
yeah,
So, then for building your deck, you would ideally want to find something else to do on 2
yeah,
and kinda, like, move that over into the 3 cost spot.
yeah. Like I am sympathetic to the idea that there might be something here with this deck, if only because Call Obsidian and Atuma constrained deck building so heavily. And if you are able to excise those cards and actually run cards that aren't ass, you're probably going to have to still run 1 or 2 bad 4/10s, right? Like Typhoid Mary, Luke Cage, or whatever. But at least Luke Cage has some freaking upside to it, you know? Like at least there's,
Especially in Bullseye meta, and,
yeah,
like, and maintaining 10 power is super important. Like, if
yeah,
you go, like, 10 into 10 and then they bullseye you, it's just like, "Oh god, rage,
yeah.
rage."
Yeah, like at least like my instinct is like you have Ares, you have Luke Cage, you have Typhoid Mary, you get the rest of the package in there. You probably play Arrow, you play Surtur, you play Scar. That might be enough. Like that might be a just totally fine thing to do. And then you have like I've seen people doing overlap with Scream. I've seen people doing
Interesting.
I can see people doing overlap with Iron Patriot. Like the fact that you're no longer locked into crap, either Crossbones, Cull Obsidian, Atuma. You actually get to play cards that aren't crap, I think is a big deal.
There is also, like, the death Surtur Scar angle too.
I have such little faith in death hybridizations, but maybe.
Yeah, I'm saying it's non-zero. It's possible. I'm also not like, "Oh, that's where I'm starting," or whatever, but that stuff is always intriguing to me, and it's just like, yeah, if you can kinda slide death into an Ares deck, like, that helps you quite a bit. In terms of, like, other things, moving away from, like, actual Surtur, is just like, if you are a deck that plays the Infinite, like, that's a pretty good way to spike it.
Yeah,
Like, it's not consistent. Obviously, you want some other stuff down the chain or whatever, but if we're talking about, like, War Machine, Ebony Maw, Infinite package, like, if
yeah.
that fits anywhere, I don't necessarily think that
Well,
it does off the top
there
of my
is
head,
a
but
storm deck that plays Zabu Psylocke in which this does have some synergy, where it's like this is just a
is this a
card that
is this a 2099
it
deck
is.
that
It
you're
is a
talking about?
2099 deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, you know, you could do like a turn 3 storm into this if you don't have your super big combo, and then just like skip and play the Infinite. That probably wins lanes. Like,
Yeah.
there's stuff. I think that I'm talking myself into Ares mattering less as a card himself and more as unlocking Surtur to go in other decks. That
Also,
is where I'm at.
potentially true.
Where
Because current Surtur, does have to jump through some hoops because like each of the 410s comes with effectively a restriction, right? It's like, well, if you play Atuma, you kind of want to play Armor. If you play Typhoid Mary, you kind of want to play Luke, et cetera, et cetera. Like Ares is the thing that is like just more generally applicable, and then there are generally things like maybe death or like whatever random 10 power thing. It's like, well, I can get Ares and another 10 power thing in my deck. And then if we cap that off with like Scar and a different 6, maybe Surtur is doing work. Maybe now this is like better than Gladiator outside of specifically Iron Patriot fights or whatever. Who knows?
I do kind of wonder about the arms race on day one, where it's like if you're playing Surtur mirrors or Ares mirrors, it's like, well, whoever has the bigger deck wins. It's like, that's probably the wrong incentive to give people in terms of good deck building.
Ares, because of that, I think Ares would be like a kind of shit season pass.
Yeah, it'd be terrible.
Or like anything that did like that sort of game. Like Iron Patriot at least is, you're doing different things and like, people's decks are never going to be 100% the exact same like package or whatever. So
it doesn't just happen either. Like Iron Patriot is a decision you make and invest into over the course of multiple turns, whereas Ares would just be like, well, I built my deck differently, suck it. And like that is a much worse dynamic, yes.
Because there's so many Ares mirrors, I just put an Infinite in my deck because I can't cast it.
I'm never losing an Ares. Your Ares is always 6 power less than my Ares, bro. Like that's definitely real, I think. It will probably be, if enough people are playing it on day one, that will be like some weird incentives that we have to deal with. Now it's time for you to make the finger guns. Yeah, we're talking Bullseye, baby. This card's dope. Like, I expected it to be a big boost to discard, but it ended up creating a whole different style of discard. Apocalypse, eat your heart out. Get out of here, bro.
Yeah, you're dead.
You're dead.
He kept coming back until finally.
Yeah, if we want 32 power, we'll get it the normal way. By playing a Dakin and then Arnim Zolaing it before we activate Bullseye. Jerk.
Yeah, by activating the fast forward feature of Marvel Snap.
If I want 32 power, I'll get it the normal way, by discarding 16 swarms in the final turn of the game. Like, that's...
And really, like, Bullseye's animation is like throwing cards, right? Like, he's kind of Gambit coded.
I've basically never seen his animation.
Because you haven't played with it?
Because it always fast forwards.
Oh, that.
Because it literally...
That I guess.
Yeah, like...
I was thinking, like, I've played it a decent amount.
He does throw cards, though, yes. I'm using hyperbole here as a rhetorical device.
Yeah, but I was like, I had to think about it. And I was like, why did I have to think about it? Because I have activated it a lot.
Yeah, no, Bullseye's animation is the fast forward screen.
I think the fast forward thing is it.
His animation is the fast forward screen. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. It's like a...
he's a time traveler.
Yeah,
so.
Someone played Kang against me the other day. I know, I made the same face too. It was in Mr. Negative, though. They can get away with anything.
Sure.
And the animation didn't even play. There was just like a black box.
that card and probably like any sort of bugs around it has probably just gone unchecked.
What
would be my guess?
What do you think they just have? Like,
I don't think anyone's upkeeping like, oh yeah, we gotta test Kang, make sure that's all still working.
As far as I'm concerned, massive quality of life buff because the animation didn't play. It just like a black box showed up and then it happened. I didn't have to sit through that crap. It was amazing. Huge, great job. Keep that in there. Like that's a great bug. Keep it going. On that subject, they should increase the amount of games Madam Web crashes as a functional nerf to move bounce. I think this is next level balancing. This is why they should hire me. And Bullseye itself, though, has finally created a deck that it's not exactly like move bounce. I think the highs of move bounce are still higher, but there is a deck that can go very, very tall in such a way as to, I won't say kill mid-range, but make it a lot harder for mid-range to exist.
We got some load-bearing Red Guardians.
There's a lot of load-bearing Red Guardians. The entire Marvel Snap meta is just being everyone should thank Red Guardian every day for allowing this metagame to not be the worst thing of all time. It's such a good card.
It's so funny too, because the discard deck specifically is just like every card they play, you're like, oh, need a Red Guardian for that.
Yeah, I've had games where I frigga my Red Guardian against the discard deck so I can get a second Red Guardian for their other bullshit. Like it's definitely, it's not the greatest line, but if you need it, it works.
Well, it is technically doable. I wouldn't say that it works in that like translates to game wins.
I won that game. Thank you. Thank you for your applause. I appreciate it.
Congratulations, mon ami.
Thank you. Thank you, Gambit. I know you're just mad that another 3/3 discard card that throws cards got all your shine. I saw someone saying
how do you say it's bullshit in like a Cajun accent? How would they say bullshit?
Bullshit. No, that was terrible. That was Southern. That was too Southern. No, I was trying to do Ed Orgeron, former head coach of the LSU Tigers, but his accent's just really hard to do. Like it's the greatest accent of all time, but like I can't do it. I always lapse too Southern for it. I can't do it.
Yeah, Gambit got a buff a while ago.
Yeah,
he earned his 3/3.
Yeah,
status, right? Wasn't he like?
I forgot. Yeah, he was a 3/2. Oh,
like a 3/1 at some point. Like long ass time ago.
I don't think so, but probably
he did get to kill things if you were hellbent though.
Yeah, he used to work even if you didn't have cards in hand. So
dude, I will say, yeah, with the thing up.
Yeah, you can see it, right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
It's definitely an interesting time for 3/3s that throw cards, because someone pointed out that Bullseye and Gambit should definitely have their abilities switched. And I think that's a thing that Marvel
dude, especially given the animation. And yeah, like Bullseye is like headshot, like kill.
Bullseye's the killer. Yeah, like
he's not like hitting your kneecaps. He's not -2ing you. He's not he's afflicting you with death.
Yes.
That is his job.
Yes, that is actually very explicitly his job. I didn't know this. He doesn't actually have superpowers. He's just like a dude.
No, he's just good.
Yeah, he's just literally just like a guy. It's like Joe Bullseye over here, just absolutely nailing it. Just that's what he is. He's just really good.
Domino at least has like the Deus Ex factor.
Yeah, Domino actually canonically has supernatural luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bullseye, he's just that good.
Yeah, he's
built different.
Yeah, that's his superpower is built diff. And he is like, Marvel Snap's probably going to run into this in the future, because there's a lot of stuff that they couldn't do when Marvel Snap first came out. Like Activate, for example, did not exist. They couldn't have made this card. They have gotten progressively better and better at making cards. They are putting out banger after banger after banger. Awesome cards. Even their failures.
And then Bruce Banner.
I was going to say, I was going to mention Bruce Banner. Banger, banger, banner, banger, banger. But he's not that bad. Like, that's a really cool card. He sucks power level wise, but like, if you asked me for a flavorful interpretation of Bruce Banner turning into the Hulk, I don't think I can do better than that.
I don't know about skipping energy, making him angry or whatever.
I think that there has to be something you have control over that makes him angry.
But that's kind of weird. You're just like poking the bear at that point. You're like going up to Mark Ruffalo and just poking him with a stick. You're like, hey, where's the green guy?
And the official stance of this podcast is that if you see Mark Ruffalo in public, you should do that.
Poke him with a stick.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. That is the official stance of this podcast.
If that happens, I'd be so happy.
I fully endorse it. I consider it both legally and ethically justifiable. This is a legal admission. You can use it in court.
I never thought that I would have any meaningful impact on the world. Look at me now. Look at me now.
Yeah, this is legal advice, actually. If you do that to Mark Ruffalo, you will not get in trouble. Legal advice.
New verse says so.
You pointed at the camera and I was like, okay, here comes something that's about to be really stupid. And then you paused and then you hit it. And I was like, yep, that's basically exactly what I expected. Awesome. Great job. You hit me with that playing card right through the screen. Is that
Headshot?
-2. Yeah, I got -2 by that joke. That's, I think, all I wanted to cover. I'm fairly certain that's all I wanted to cover. We've talked about Bullseye, we've talked about Ares, we've talked about Lamau the bug, we've talked for 30 minutes about the compensation. I think those are really the subjects that have been on my mind recently. Like, that's what I care about. I think that...
Guess what I did today?
What did you do today?
I went shopping. Guess what I bought?
A headband?
Dude, I've been wearing this, man. This is
you have been wearing it, actually. Like, the headphones look different, though, right?
No, it's the same.
Not.
And they accidentally matched the headband.
Yeah, that's why I was weirded out, because like your headphones haven't previously matched the headband. Yeah, no, I see the snom.
That's a snom.
Did you buy the trench coat? Did you buy an even larger gamer chair?
No, I just slouched more. The coat is new, but that's not what I'm talking about. Sure. I bought a pair of skinny jeans.
Oh,
I looked at all their available jeans. They had so many, and I looked at the skinny jeans and I was like, look, I know that this is not cool. I bought them anyway.
I'm glad you brought this up, because I have recently transitioned my wardrobe into giant jeans. I'm wearing Jinkos now. Yeah, no, I saw that picture of God, what was his name? It was a picture I sent you.
MC Hammer?
No. Of it was, I remember this guy. His name is
Headshot.
His name is Grant Cardone. And when I worked in a very bad sales job, my boss had me watch his sales videos that sucked. And there's a picture of him with Donald Trump on a golf course. And Mr. Cardone, of course, rich guy, Republican, doing weird real estate scams, recently just launched a fund that combines Bitcoin and real estate for no reason other than to say that he could launch a fund that combined those two things. He's exactly the kind of guy you think he is. And he was wearing these skinny pants next to Donald Trump, who, to his credit, I suppose, does not wear skinny pants. He wears wider fits, because that's the cultural heritage that he's hearkening back to, the power tie, the 80s, the big suits, that kind of stuff, right? And I looked at that picture, and I looked at this guy wearing skinny pants, and I looked at Donald Trump,
all your pants.
And I was like, I cannot fucking wear the same clothes as this man. I can't do it. It's over. I'm going back to, I'm bringing the Jinkos back. So,
but then you're gonna see how goddamn good I look in my Gambit outfit with my skinny jeans.
No, like this is.
You'll be like, look at his ass.
I'm wearing big shirts too now. We got big shirts and big shorts. I'm done with this. I'm done. It's over. I get to be comfortable now. It's gonna be a new era for me. I get to like not wear things that are so tight that sometimes when I sit down for a long period of time, I get kind of sick.
You know what's comfortable for me? Feeling like I'm being hugged.
And that's the endorsement of skinny jeans that we've happened. Here's the thing, though. Now that I've jumped on this trend, it's got like maximum 6 months left. So you're going to be right back in.
Dead. It stops.
Yeah. Like I'm too old to jump on trends and have them stick.
I'll shelve these for now. I mean, I'm not going to, but yeah, in 6 months, dust them off.
Yeah, you're cooking here. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening to the KMBest podcast. I know we didn't do a listener question this time. That's because last time it was very politics heavy, and I didn't really want to delve into that as much here. Succeeded to a nominal amount. And as of always, thank you to my co-host, Gerry Thompson, and we will see you in the next one.